Are you ready to do this, Britta?
I'm ready to do this, Spence. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot tonight is Britta Stapleton.
Hello.
We're two nerds and lovers that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 83. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on our website, forwardofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by, relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Britta, welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing this evening?
Thanks, Spence. I am doing good. I'm a little tired, but it's been a long couple of weeks. So it's been a while since I've been on the podcast, so it's good to be back.
Now, in all fairness, just to let our super friends know, Stu is on his whirlwind, worldwide vacation to Portland, Oregon, and parts unknown. He is with both of his daughters, Katie and Mo, and so he's going to be out this week. And so we figured it was a good chance to just let the Stapletons run the show and do a movie club this week.
Who doesn't love the Stapletons?
I mean, I do. I mean, personally, I think the Stapletons are the best.
I'm okay with them.
I'm a little biased, though, just to be honest. So tell the super friends, Britta, what is new? What have you been up to?
So Spencer's mom and her husband Roger have been staying with us for close on a week and a half now. They've been looking for a house, so we've had visitors in the house, which always makes things a little busy and crazy. We had a lot of fun this last weekend with it being close to 4th of July. We took the kids to a parade on Saturday, which they thought was the greatest thing ever. I told the kids before we went to the parade, I said, now this isn't going to be like a Disneyland parade, because that's what Jackson had in his head, that it was going to be just like the Disneyland parade. And I said, we're not going to see Disney characters. They're not going to be doing all these cool things. It's not going to be like big, huge floats. Like, it's just going to be some people walking, some kids dancing, and some music and stuff. And lo and behold, halfway through the parade, here comes a big, huge float with every single Disney princess on it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Every single one. And Jackson goes, see, Mom, I told you they would have Disney characters. And I was like, yep, bud, you are right. They had Disney characters. So he got really excited. He saw Darth Vader. He saw Tarzan and Jane. And at one point he said he saw the Lion King. It was really just the lion mascot for the Lions Club, but it was the Lion King.
Close enough.
Right?
Hakuna Matata.
So,
that's all I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. So that was super fun. We did that and did fireworks Saturday night. And of course, Jackson was excited to see the fireworks. And the second they started, he pulled his blanket over his head and covered his ears for the entire thing and didn't see a single firework.
Now, I think he's gonna do better tomorrow on the actual 4th of July, because we're gonna watch the fireworks from the backyard, and
yes.
we have I'd say probably like a half obstructed view of our city's firework display. Like, there's kind of a tree a neighbor has that I wish I could go cut down, but that would be a bad thing.
Sure.
But we can see about half the fireworks though. So
yeah,
we should have a pretty good showing tomorrow night. And I think since we won't be close and it won't be loud, I think he'll do better.
Yeah, he seems excited to see him again.
Right.
So
he's also excited to do s'mores in the backyard.
Yes, that too.
So
he's probably more excited for that.
Yeah.
Than the fireworks.
Very, very true. What else is new? What's going on? How's work? How's life?
It's good. Work is busy as always, and things are always changing, and I don't know.
Okay.
What else? Nothing else is new.
I mean, I know, obviously, but our super friends don't. That's why I'm asking you. Otherwise, it would be really silly to be like, hey, dear, so what was your week like? Like, I haven't heard it 10 times over already.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I don't know. There's not much else that's new. Just keep on keeping on.
So obviously tomorrow's the 4th of July here in the United States. Sorry to our one super friend listener over in Great Britain. We're celebrating independence tomorrow. I don't hold it personally against you, and you shouldn't take it that way. But we're celebrating our Independence Day tomorrow, and so you might hear some fireworks going on in the background tonight. I will try to keep that to a minimum, but it is a little crazy here. In Utah, they start letting people do fireworks like 3 or 4 days before the 4th, 3 or 4 days after the 4th. And then they also get to do fireworks at the end of the month because we celebrate Pioneer Day, which is a state holiday when the pioneers that trekked out west settled the state of Utah. And that's on the 24th. And so that's going to be more fireworks. Let's see. Upcoming this Saturday, I actually fly to Billings, Montana to pick up a car for Britta and the boys and drive it back. So that's going to be kind of a crazy weekend for me. It's going to be, a flight and then like an 8-hour car drive all back in the exact same day. So it's a little bit of an Ironman there. And then this week we just decided literally 2 days ago, like I said, we have Pioneer Day, the 24th here in Utah. It's a state holiday. We decided to take the 20th, which is a Friday off, and the 23rd, which is a Monday off, and string 5 days together. And we're going to go on a little mini family vacation. And I think we've decided that we're going to drive out to San Francisco, and we're going to spend like 3.5 days in San Francisco. And so that should be a lot of fun, right, Britta?
Yeah, it should be. So if any of you super friends have any awesome ideas for things to do with a 4 and 5-year-old in the San Francisco-ish area, write in. Let us know. Send us a message.
Is it wrong of me that I want to go see some of the landmarks that were in Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home? Because that was filmed in San Francisco and Sausalito. Is that wrong of me?
That is wrong of you.
But I mean, I can do it though, right? Take a couple pictures at least?
If we're near them, sure, why not?
I'm setting the agenda.
How bored are the kids going to be?
I mean, who doesn't want to see a nuclear vessel? I'm just saying.
Sure.
A nuclear vessel.
Whistle.
Anyway, yes.
Thank you. Got that.
A little check off there for you. So, so anyway, we got that coming up, and, just a lot's going on. I haven't been gaming much recently because, like you said, my mom's in town and she's looking for a house and whatnot. And so we've been spending a lot of time with family. But I did do one thing. They re-released the Nintendo Classic Edition, and I managed to snag my hands on one. And so I've got it in the box now. It is here in the house. I'm going to set that thing up, I think, this next week. And I think I'm going to try to see if I can get the boys to learn to play some of the old classics. See if I can get them playing Super Mario Brothers. I think Charlie's at an age where he could play that.
Yeah, he'll get frustrated real fast.
Well, that's what I did as a kid too, but...
Yeah, but he'll love it. Anything Mario, he'll love. It'll be fun. Okay, question. What other games can you play on that? I don't know anything about Nintendo. You know that. Can I play Dr. Mario? That's really what I want to know.
I don't know if Dr. Mario's on it, to tell you the truth. I think it might be, but I'd have to go look at the back.
It's the only game I can play.
I think I'll have to go back and look at the back of the box. It's up in the room. You can take a look later. So anyway, I've got that, and I was really excited. I was really happy because I missed out on that like 18 months ago when it released, and they said, we're only doing limited, blah, blah, blah. So if you managed to get your hands on one, congratulations. If not, I think they're still out there. They're going to be releasing them through the end of the year. They're going to be putting out a lot more. I do need to get my hands on a second controller, though. I got controller extenders already, but I need to get my hands on a second controller. So, super friends, if you got a line on one, you know where I can get one, let me know.
We're just using the podcast for our own benefit today.
Always. Always and forever. All right, Britta. Well, let's do the thing we do. Let's, as Stu says, let's kill some Bothans and get to Rebel Intelligence. What do you say?
Sounds good.
Although technically we didn't kill the Bothans. I'm just saying, but...
yeah, we didn't kill them.
No.
Somebody else did.
The Empire did.
Yes, obviously.
Bothans died. We'll just say it that way. I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Britta, we are into Rebel Intelligence. You know what? I usually let guests start off, but I know that it are a little lopsided this week, so I'm going to actually start off for once in a blue moon.
Sounds good. Let's hear it.
Okay, so unfortunately, I'm going to start off with something kind of sad.
Oh.
So Harlan Ellison, who's a legendary writer of television, books, novellas, he passed away just this last week. He was 84 years old. So obviously we're sad for his family. Harlan Ellison, though, he's a very iconic sci-fi writer, but he was also very, very controversial because he wrote so much and he just continued to write and write and write. In his later years, let's say he used the law to his advantage. He would sue lots of people. And he got really kind of sue happy, and he'd say, oh, this little portion of a story is very similar to a story I wrote back in, such and such a time. And so lifted my idea, and that's where they came up for their movie or their TV show or whatever. And so, that kind of became a thing he became quite known for. Also, he was kind of we'll say a cantankerous old coot. And
it's a nice way to put it.
And he was very critical of TV. He was very critical of a lot of things, but most people are going to know him for a couple things. One, he wrote an influential biography that he titled I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. And he also wrote a gut-wrenching, depressing, like post-apocalyptic story called A Boy and His Dog that a lot of people know with. And then, of course, probably the thing that most people know him for was he wrote for Star Trek and the original series, and he wrote one particular episode that's probably going to go down in history as probably the best episode of Star Trek of any of the Star Trek series, and that was City on the Edge of Forever. And that's with the original cast, where it's like a kind of a tale of romance and time travel and heartbreak, and it's literally one of the best episodes that's ever been written. And later down the road, he ended up suing CBS for some of the, I don't know whatchamacallit, the rights, some of the revenue that it was making, but he won multiple awards. He won Nebulas. He won Hugos. Just a very, very big sci-fi writer. And he passed away. And this is what his wife, Susan Ellison, posted on social media after he passed. He says Susan Ellison, or someone else posted this on behalf of Susan Ellison. Says, asked me to pass this, the announcement of the writer the passing of the writer Harlan Ellison in his sleep earlier today. And then the quote is, for a brief time I was here, and for a brief time I mattered. Harlan Ellison. And so, anyway, it's
a nice quote.
Yeah, I really like that. It's always sad to see people go in the first place. Right. But kind of in the nerd sci-fi community, he was very well known, and a lot of people have a lot of anecdotes about him, and a lot of crazy stories and whatnot. Like I said, he was a cantankerous old coot, and I read this great little story someone posted online from like a Comic-Con or something where, someone took their daughter and he was doing like some sort of like a reading, and I can't remember what he was doing, but he was walking around or doing something, and he looked at the little girl and says oh my God, it's Shirley Temple. And then he looked at her and said, careful, she grew up to be a Republican. And everyone kind of laughed and kind of chuckled out of it. And then the little girl says to the mom, he's silly. And the mom kind of laughed back, knowing, that he's a curmudgeon, a crazy old coot. And she says, you tell him that. And so, of course, she runs up, she jumps up and runs to the front of the room and says to him, right before he's getting ready to take the stage and do whatever, she says, you're silly. And apparently there was like a dead silence. And because, this is a guy who's, let's see, he mailed a dead woodchuck to someone. He, threw cigarettes in someone's purse if they wouldn't put it out. I mean, just, all these like kind of crazy stuff. And
Yeah.
And this little 4-year-old is standing there saying like, you're silly, to his face. And apparently he just sighed, drooped his shoulders and says, and all this time I thought I was profound. And then he did a goldfish impersonation for her and let her go back to her seat. And I kind of like that because, even though he was known to be kind of cantankerous and, whatnot, and a coot, we'll say, he still had a really good wit about him and was really self-aware, and I kind of like that. So anyway, R.I.P. Harlan Ellison. Britta, what do you have for me?
All right. Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but I have noticed that Marvel has been releasing more movies per year than they have in the past.
That's true.
It's gotten kind of busy. So, Kevin Feige from Marvel has actually made some comments about that recently. And he kind of explained that the reason that they've expanded to, like, they're releasing about 3 movies a year. And he said that they're doing this so they can do the sequels to the films that people have really liked, like Guardians of the Galaxy and things like that.
Sure.
Because, everyone loves having those stories continue and everything. But then also to start bringing out more of those stories that people haven't heard of. Like when Ant-Man first came out.
Yeah. Most
people weren't really familiar with Ant-Man or Black Panther. Movies like that they can kind of keep bringing those out. So, he says they think it's a lot of fun to be able to kind of intermix these sorts of things with multiple movies and then new things and that kind of thing. I don't know. What do you think about that, Spencer, having like at least 3 movies every year from Marvel?
I like it, but I think that as long as they do a good mix of like the big tentpole movies, like, right? So if you're going to get like the big Avengers movie or like a big well-known quantity, like a Spider-Man or a Captain America or an Iron Man.
Right.
Or I'd even say Guardians of the Galaxy now because it's, really big.
Yeah.
But if you have like one of the bigger tentpole movies, and then you can do like 2 smaller movies or like a side movie, because like I know they're going to do a Black Widow movie, and they had kind of been rumored for a long time, and now it looks like it's coming together. Like that movie obviously is going to be about a character that's been in a number of MCU movies, but Black Widow's not a character I'd say is like on the same level as Iron Man, Captain America. Hulk, any of those. But Ant-Man's such a good analogy, Britta, like you brought it up, because a character I was very unfamiliar with, but it was a really cool story. It was told really well. I really enjoyed it. And so, like, if they do something in, like, Black Widow has that same kind of treatment, like, it's a really good story, it's entertaining, it's some sort of a movie that has a different take than maybe what we've normally seen. I'm okay with smaller side movies like that because I think they can still do well and you can still expand on your universe without having to, like, hey, by the way, here's, another cameo from the Hulk or Thor or, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. But I think there is going to come a point where maybe in the current way we're doing the MCU that you're going to start saying, okay, who else are you going to bring in? Like another, another Doctor Strange, stuff like that, right? But what I really want to see is what's going to happen once we get, with the Disney buyout of Fox, once we get the ability to use the X-Men and Fantastic Four in there. Because then you've got a lot more characters. You can build a lot more of the big tentpole movies and franchises, and then a lot of other side characters you could do stories on.
Right. Yeah, no, I like that. I mean, at times it does feel like there's a lot of Marvel movies coming out, and I really love them, but I feel like I have to keep up on them because their stories keep combining and everything, which, like this year it finally all made sense to me because, like I talked about a while ago, we watched through from the beginning
right.
Of the whole set of all the movies, and it finally was making sense, and I really love that, how it combines, but it does feel like a lot at times, but I really love a lot of the characters because I didn't grow up like reading comic books. I didn't know a whole lot about, like, I'd heard of Iron Man, didn't really know much about him. I knew who Captain America was and the Hulk, but that was pretty much it. I didn't really know much about any of these other characters and things. And I really have loved like when Ant-Man came out, or like Doctor Strange, I really loved that. And then Guardians of the Galaxy, I didn't know who they were. So I've really loved being introduced to these characters and then seeing their stories continue as they do Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and 3. And, you know, I think they're, you know, more Doctor Stranges and now the new Ant-Man and Wasp out this week and stuff. So I really like that. And I really like the continuing of like the Avengers stories. I'm really excited for, you know, Avengers 4 next year, and some of those kinds of things. And I think they've just done such a good job with a lot of these movies and these characters that they've really expanded their audience to someone like me who didn't grow up with comic books. And yeah, I call myself a nerd. I didn't necessarily grow up the most nerdy, but I've become more of a nerd, I feel like, as I've grown older and grown to love these things. But they've just really kind of opened that world for me. So I like that.
You did mention that Ant-Man and Wasp opens up this weekend, and when the podcast releases on Thursday, you know, you'll have the early screenings, and then it, you know, opens wide on Friday. Sidebar, real quick, have you heard back from the babysitter yet? Can we go see this thing on Friday night or what?
That's a great question. I have a text, and
our super friends are dying to know if we have a babysitter.
I know. They're on the edge. Do we have a babysitter or not? Yes, she is available.
Nice.
We can go to Ant-Man and the Wasp. Woohoo, date night.
I will get the tickets later tonight. Good to know. Okay. I'm with you, Britta. This is good. I'm okay with 3 movies a year as long as, like I said, they mix it up and we get some smaller things and they can kind of change the tone. That way we don't feel like it's just all Avengers all the time, because that would get old.
Feel like a lot sometimes. Yeah. Even though I love it, it does feel like a lot sometimes.
So, Britta, there's a thing in the video game industry where there's pretty much 3 main players. You've got Microsoft, who's got the Xbox. You've got Sony, that's got the PlayStation.
Right.
And then you've got Nintendo, which is actually, you know, got the Switch and then like the 3DS and a bunch of other stuff. But those are the 3 big companies: Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. Not necessarily in that order. I'd say this generation it's Sony, then Microsoft, then Nintendo. But
sure.
The idea being that there's 3 players in the market. It looks like there may be a 4th player.
Really?
So we could compare that to Fox back in the day when Fox broke in and there was 3 major networks: ABC, CBS, and NBC.
Right.
Google. You heard me right. Google is...
Who does everything.
Who does everything. You're right. Google's talking about actually getting into the video game industry. Now, a little while ago, Google was talking about doing some games, maybe doing some software development in the world of gaming. You know, and we know Google. I mean, email, internet browsers, you know, everything, right? You know, search engine, everything. But now they're talking about getting into the video game industry with hardware. And they're saying that they've got a 3-pronged approach: some sort of a streaming platform, some sort of hardware, and an attempt to bring game developers under Google's umbrella. Now, I don't know if that means they're going to, you know, create their own game development studios, or if they're going to try to purchase some and get them under their wing. But the thing is that this isn't like a leak from like one individual. This is a leak that's happening from like multiple different individuals that's saying that Google's got plans to get into the video game industry.
Oh, so it's not like an actual announcement.
No, it's not like an announcement.
Okay.
And to be perfectly honest, in this day and age, you're going to see a lot more leaks like this as a way to kind of like test a balloon to see, you know, what's going to happen. And so anyway, I mean, there'd been rumors a number of years ago that, you know, Google's going to do stuff. And then, of course, Google ended up purchasing Niantic, which made Pokemon Go. And I think they actually let Pokemon Go, they let that game development kind of go right before that game got big, I believe. It maybe didn't kind of work out. I'm not quite sure all in the details, 100% of that. But they're looking to do something. And I don't know, like they started showing up at the E3 this last year. They were taking meetings apparently. When I know you're not a big gamer, but when you hear something like this, I mean, obviously Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo are really big and they're big in the gaming industry. But when you hear a company like Google like talking about throwing its hat in the ring, what does that make you think? I mean, does that make you think like, hey, everyone else is in trouble? Or does this make you think like this is just Google trying to expand?
Personally, it's hard because first off, I think it's just Google, doing like a money grab, like we got to get in on this, da 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 da. But I don't know enough to know if it's a danger to the other, the other companies or anything. But they're so well established, and they've done stuff for such a long time that I feel like it might be kind of hard. But, Google has a really good name. They've done a lot of things. They've got their hands in a lot of pots, so they could just come in and they might create something really great that everyone would be interested in. And maybe they'll find some way to appeal to, maybe people who are not gamers already, kind of the way like Nintendo has done with, the Wii and stuff like that.
Sure.
So maybe they'll be able to do something like that would appeal to, someone like myself who is, professed as not really a gamer. They might be able to do something like that. If anyone can, I would say maybe Google could do that. I don't really know. So,
well, what's interesting to me about this also is like, most people know Google for a lot of their software, but then like recently, they rolled out the Google Fiber that's been going into a lot of cities. So they're putting in backbone, a data backbone throughout the country in a lot of places. And then, they had their Google Pixel phone that was being made by a few other manufacturers, but now they've taken that in-house too. And that phone's a really solid Android phone.
Really?
And Google, I mean, Android is Google basically, right? And they make an OS platform. Now they make mobile hardware in the phone realm. So I mean, I do think that they have the capability to do this. I think it's a little early to know what it's going to look like, but
right.
But I mean, there's options there. I mean, I'm interested in it. I want to see what it's going to look like. I mean, if it looks like, like when Atari tried rebooting, their stuff and making a kind of a little box so you could run a whole bunch of Atari. Like, who cares about that? It's got to be quality. It's got to be good. It's going to have to be competitive with the current gen or whatever will be the next gen consoles that come out.
Right.
So.
Well, and I wonder if it'll be one of those systems, because aren't there some who do and some who don't, who can like run multiple platforms and stuff, or like types of video games or something like that?
Sony during the PlayStation 3 era had the ability to run like Linux on the PS3 as well, but now more than ever, I think they're pretty much locked into their own OS for their console. But
like I said, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
just speculating.
It just depends. So anyway, we'll bring you more news, Super Friends, as time goes by. But for right now, just know that Google is interested and they're thinking about it.
Huh. Interesting.
What else you got for me, Britta?
All right. So, if you don't know, Sonic the Hedgehog is being made into a live action movie.
Huh.
Live action / CG hybrid.
Right. Yeah. Because they're going to find a blue hedgehog in real life. Yeah.
Obviously, just like they found dancing penguins for Mary Poppins.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so so nothing's really been announced on that. They're kind of doing some things, but they have reported that Jim Carrey is in talks to play the evil villain in the series. In the movie. He's going to
play Dr. Robotnik?
Robotnik, yes. I was like, I don't really know how to pronounce that name, but that's what I'm assuming. I don't know a lot about Sonic the Hedgehog other than I remember commercials when I was a kid. But so Jim Carrey is talking about maybe doing this movie, which is interesting because he hasn't really done a lot of stuff in the last while. He's done he did the Dumb and Dumber sequel, and in a couple other little things recently, but he hasn't been in any big kind of whatever kind of movies and special effects type films in a while.
He's been growing a beard, Britta. He's been busy.
Well, it's true. He has been growing a beard.
That beard does not grow itself.
It doesn't. It takes a lot of hard work and manipulation, apparently.
Yes.
So, yeah. So I don't know. What do you think about that, Jim Carrey as Robotnik?
I'm not interested in this thing at all, to be perfectly honest. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog was a fun game on my Sega Genesis back in like the mid-90s, maybe early mid-90s. But there wasn't a lot to it. You know, you ran around, you ran really fast, you collected gold rings.
Doesn't he like roll or something?
Yeah, he rolls and you jump and you bounce on, bounce on Dr. Robotnik or whatever, right? And that's all about I remember. And I remember, I think we had Sonic the Hedgehog, we had Sonic 2, which had Sonic and Tails, and then I think maybe we had the third game, and then it was like, done. I don't think we had the Genesis anymore after that, which was a big part of that. But it just, I'm not super keen on the whole let's mix live action with CGI unless it's done well. Kind of like the Jungle Book, right? The Disney Jungle Book, like that was done really, really well. For some reason, I think putting an animated blue hedgehog that runs really fast with Jim Carrey, just
maybe too cartoony.
Yeah, something about it just doesn't sound good to me.
Yeah, because seeing the CG characters like you mentioned in the Jungle Book, like they're meant to look like actual real animals.
Right.
Which I think was incredible. And I thought they did a fantastic job with that. And I loved it. Our kids loved it. Something about something more cartoony like this. And when I think of Sonic Hedgehog, like I said, I never played the games, but wasn't there a Sonic cartoon?
Yes.
I vaguely remember a Sonic cartoon, and that's what I think of. And I'm just like, real people and a cartoon, it doesn't mesh for me, but maybe it'll be great. But I'm not interested in Sonic. It's not my thing. So now maybe if they were to make, a remake of Mario Brothers in real life.
Yeah, no. Actually, I think that's completely in the works to happen.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, our kids will love that.
Yeah.
And we'll have to go see it.
I remember the real bad Mario Brothers movie, so
I just remember the show because our kids have watched it.
Yeah, no, the cartoon show I used to watch as a kid, and
it's horrible.
When my kids watch, I'm like, oh, this was the crappiest piece of crap that ever crapped a crap.
All the live action parts at the beginning and end.
Hey, paisano! It's the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. Da 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 da. Do the Mario. Yeah. Oh, I remember.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
So we'll see. I mean, it's meh.
Yeah.
Speaking of TV shows, though, with video game themes, back in 2013, I was about to say 2013, but I guess that works. But
same thing.
2013. Anyway, in 2013, Microsoft announced Steven Spielberg was going to do or be involved somehow in a live-action adaptation of the Halo franchise. And that was in 2013, and then we haven't heard a lot about it. Well, just a day or two ago, 343 Industries, which is the current holder of the Halo IP, announced on their website that Showtime has actually commissioned a 10-episode series, and they've got a director or a showrunner. His name is Kyle Killen. I guess he's done the fantasy alt timeline procedural Awake, and he's going to be writing and executive producing the Halo series. And then Rupert Wyatt, who is the director of 2011's Rise of the Planet of the Apes, is going to actually direct multiple episodes. And Steven Spielberg and Amblin Entertainment are still attached to the project, so they're still there for I don't know what yet, but that's still kind of been there. So not a lot new has been talked about it. Still not a lot about the plot we know. We do know that it's supposed to be in the 26th century. It's a conflict between humanity and an alien threat known as the Covenant, which to me says that it's basically going to be about the kind of the first trilogy of the Halo games, which is, in my opinion, the best. That was when Bungie was still in charge and they were doing the games. And they were all developed by Bungie. Those are the games that I love the most. Starting with like Halo 4 and on, they're just not the same game. I mean, now they're not wildly dramatically different, but it's like the heart of the game isn't there. It's been changed. It's just not quite the same. So, who knows when this show's actually going to hit? Who knows what's going to happen with it? But I do like the idea that we're going to get a live adaptation of Halo, which I think could totally be easily done. And it's going to be Master Chief and the Covenant, they should take cues maybe from the first trilogy pretty heavily. Yeah. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about that as well, because Halo 1 and 2 are some of the only video games that I've played to any extent. Played it quite a bit when I was in college. Never really played like the campaign. We just did the
multiplayer.
The multiplayer, kind of link up your video game consoles together and stuff, which was a lot of fun. So that's one that I actually really enjoy, and I'm kind of excited about this because I can see, especially with Steven Spielberg, if he's still involved at all, could be really cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could see that being pretty awesome. So I would be willing to at least check that out if that gets ever finished.
Did you ever watch the Red versus Blue web series?
I've seen a few. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I've seen a few.
So I think I probably watched like the first 3, maybe 4 seasons of that, and then for some reason it just kind of fell off for me. But the funny thing is, like, and it was kind of groundbreaking at the time, right? Because they actually recorded in-game footage,
right, to
use, and kind of started this whole thing called machinima, where you could do animation based, in video games. But it's just about a bunch of bumbling idiots that are in the red base and the blue base and whatnot. And I actually think a live adaptation of the Rooster Teeth series Red versus Blue, as kind of like a little comedy side project, actually would be really kind of interesting. Like, I would watch that because I really enjoyed a lot of the humor in that. I mean, it was kind of dumb and stupid, but it was also it was just kind of funny anyway.
It's one of those college humor kind of things.
Yeah. So I'd be down for that if that happened too.
Sure,
but I don't know if Microsoft wants to do that, and I don't know if Steven Spielberg is into that. But
yeah,
but I'd be okay.
Maybe not his thing.
I'm guessing not, probably. But anyway, Britta, did you have anything else in Rebel Intelligence for me?
I do actually have one more thing that I thought of that I wanted to bring up. As per the usual, being the obsessive Disney fan that I am, Toy Story Land at Disney World has opened this last week.
Really?
Which I'm super excited about. Yes, Toy Story Land is open. Slinky Dog Dash was the roller coaster on the Slinky Dog. It's supposed to be, this all takes place in Andy's backyard, and you shrink down to the size of toys, and they have, like I said, the Slinky Dog Dash ride, and alien swirling spin something, and
is that just like the teacups, except
it's basically, if you've been to Cars Land at Disneyland, the Mater ride.
Oh yeah.
The tractor, it's the exact same thing, but it's with the aliens.
Wishing and whirling,
twisting, twirling, yeah. Except not the Mater music. I'm sure it has.
I actually like that Mater music. Like, it gets stuck in my brain, though.
I know. And our kids loved that ride. So that's open at Disney World now, and they have Woody's Lunchbox is a little like Andy's Lunchbox turned to the side, a little like lunch stand. And and Toy Story Mania is connected to that as well now. So I'm excited to go and see that next year when we head to Disney World.
So that's open at Disney World.
Disney World, yep. It's at Hollywood Studios.
Will that be something that will come to Disneyland eventually, you think?
Because
didn't they just redo the whole Pier area in California Adventure? Now it's Pixar Pier.
Yeah, they did, and that just is mostly open this week too. The Incredicoaster, so California Screamin' they turned that into the Incredibles Incredicoaster, a whole new story for that. And Pixar Pier has a bunch of different Pixar themed stuff along the pier and whatnot, and a bunch of food and everything. I don't know if they will add an actual Toy Story Land on there, because I don't know how much space they have on that side of California Adventure.
Okay.
And with the big Star Wars Land, I think they kind of were just trying to do something over on that side of the park to pull people that way when Star Wars Land opens. So
that makes sense. I mean,
just my thoughts.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, thank you for the Disney update, Britta.
Yes.
I
got to bring my little bit of Disney.
All right. Last week, I had Nathan Thomas on at Voiced by Nathan, and we had a conversation, and we asked a question on social media like, we usually do to the Super Friends.
Yeah.
We were talking about, like, lead time. Like, we were talking about the Final Fantasy VII remake and how, like, it was announced a few years ago, and it looks like it's still going to be a few more years easy before we get anything.
Oh, yeah.
And so we asked the question to the Super Friends, how much lead time should you have before a project, before you announce something? So what do you think, Britta? Like, if you were making a movie, making a video game, how much lead time would you give before you announce it? Like, what do you think is the sweet spot?
I think you definitely want to build some anticipation for it, but I don't think you need a lot. I think, at least for a movie, maybe 2 years is good because people know it takes a while to make them and they like to hear who's getting into them and whatnot. I don't like to hear it 5 years in advance because I'm going to forget about it. Video games, I know those take a lot longer, but I don't know that you need to announce it the second you start working on it versus when it's closer to getting into being released. Like I said, I think somewhere around 1 to 2 years is plenty for me because I know they announced like Kingdom Hearts, right? The next Kingdom Hearts is coming out.
2013
and
is when they announced it.
I feel like I've been waiting for it for like 4 years. And I'm like, when's that coming out? And you're like, oh, sometime next year. And I'm like, oh. So that's frustrating to me. So I think that's too long.
Yeah, it's actually January 29th of 2019, by the way.
Yeah, seriously.
So we asked the question to the Super Friends, and of course we got some responses. So let's go over to the email where we always start with Peter Christensen. He says, "Dear nerds, very busy week, buying a house and moving. Congratulations, Peter. I did see online that they bought a house and they had a picture in front of their cute little house. And so congratulations, Peter. That's awesome. Give me your address, my friend, and I will send you a housewarming gift."
It'll probably be a nerd poster.
I mean, it'll be something. I'm just saying.
Gotta have something to hang on the walls.
But you email me your address, buddy, and I'll send you a housewarming present. He says, "I also think 18 months is a great lead time," which was what both Nathan and I said. He says, "I don't play games, but for movies, getting a title on a roadmap and a release date, then a teaser, then full trailers every few months prior to release is great. For example, I've been looking forward to Mission Impossible Fallout for, about a year and a half. Cheers, Peter."
Okay.
And I'm with Peter. I think 18 months is the perfect time.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, I like that.
But like you said, you want a little bit of information, then you trickle out a little bit more, and then bang, 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 you hit it up.
I like it when they can release stuff, they have time to release things at Comic-Con and, release a big trailer or something for a new movie or teasers about it.
Right.
Have time for that.
Right. Going over to Facebook, Daniel Allen. What's up, Chicago, by the way? Daniel Allen says, "Spencer, I think Bethesda nails this with that 6-month window. Builds that hype and decreases time for us to forget or be sidetracked." And you know what? I mean, I don't disagree with that, with what Daniel says, because in video games, man, it's really easy to something else pops up, that's new and shiny, and you can kind of forget about something else. And if too many things pop up too quickly, sometimes things get lost. So I like that. Caleb Albers says, "This is a tough one. I think it's all dependent on the item being released. For example, I feel games like Call of Duty need to start being advertised a lot later to the release date than games like Elder Scrolls 6 or God of War. I think those more advanced games or games that are more story-based need to be advertised a lot earlier. So, my final answer for generic games like Call of Duty or basically any shooter games, I'd say 5 months before release max, 3 months minimum. And games that are big budget games or newer franchise games, I'd say need a max of 1 year advertising or a minimum of 7 months." And that's actually a very interesting point that Caleb brings up, because you do have games like Call of Duty, right? They come out with a new one pretty much every year. Same thing with NFL, like Madden. They're going to come out with a new game. Do they need to be showing them off, a year in advance? No, because we know we're going to get a new football game.
Right.
But a game like God of War, right? Or, something's big storyline. You got to find a way to hook people into a new franchise, a new IP that they've never played, and build that, build that hype. So
Right, so you've got to have the previews and things.
So that is good. Like I do say I think 18 months is a good window, but I think Caleb is right that with some media, you probably don't have to build the hype as much. So, yeah, I like that. Very, very well thought out. Very, very, very smart. Let's go over to the Twitter. And we've got Nerdish67 at dspin67 says, it really depends on the game and developer. The poster child for a long development cycle is Duke Nukem Forever. I would say the sweet spot is when the game is about 40 to 45% complete. You should be able to guesstimate on when it may be done. Most of all, be realistic. #FON answers. Yeah, I like that. Be realistic with your time frame. No one wants to say, hey, it's coming out next year, and then hear that for the next 3 years.
Right. I have to keep pushing it back and pushing it back. Yeah, that's disappointing.
Yeah, no one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear that at all. So anyway, super friends, thank you so much for your answers. We appreciate your input and your communication with us, your interaction with us. We love being able to talk with you and get answers at all the usual places. You can get us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/FortofNerd, Twitter, which is @FortofNerd. You can get us on our email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com, or the Google Voice number. You can leave a voicemail, which is 1-801-477-7687. Britta, how can our super friends help us out this week? Is there something they can do?
They can go to iTunes, rate us on iTunes, give us some stars. We'd love to get 5. That would be amazing. Give us a review. Share us with your friends.
Yeah. I mean, we'd love to get 5, but we'd take a 4. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Be realistic. Be honest. But, we're worth a 5.
We're not perfect. But I mean, if...
We're not going to beg for it, but come on.
Please. Oh, please don't kill me. Sorry. That's my Hans Gruber
This
pretending
week,
to be American.
Share Fort of Nerditude with a friend.
For Independence Day.
Forts of Nerditude.
Very, very, very well done. So, Britta, this week we're going to do our movie club because that's typically when you come and join us on the podcast.
What I do.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
You go and see a movie. We see a movie, and then we talk about it. We have the chit chats, the chatty chits, whatever you want to call it. So we thought long and hard, with Independence Day coming out, we thought maybe we'd do like a 4th of July themed one, but that's what we did last year. And there's a new movie in the theaters that we've seen twice now.
Twice, people. Twice.
That we really kind of wanted to talk about. And so we decided that even though it's 4th of July and we're celebrating America tomorrow and, for probably the rest of the week and weekend, we wanted to talk about a movie because this is what we do here on the Fortress of Nerditude. So we're going to talk about The Incredibles 2.
And really, what's more American than a family of superheroes?
That's right.
Nothing. Nothing is more American than that.
So Britta, the first Incredibles movie came out in what? It was like 2005?
14 years ago. So subtract 14.
2004.
2004.
Okay.
There you go.
So
I was like, I can do math.
So 2004, The Incredibles comes out.
Yeah.
I would say that it was probably one of my favorite animated movies at the time.
Oh, man, I loved it.
I mean, and I still think it's a great movie. I still think it holds up because animated movies don't necessarily look dated. Some of them do, I guess, but I mean, more recent ones don't look that dated. So something from 2004 still looks good today, I think.
Yeah.
And our boys love The Incredibles. They love that movie. They've seen it a ton.
Yeah, they got into it just in time for Incredibles 2. So.
Right. So let me ask you this. We got a movie 14 years ago, and now we're going to get a sequel 14 years later. What do you think the holdup was on making a sequel to this movie?
I don't really know. I don't know if it was just that they didn't know what kind of a story to do, if they felt like there wasn't enough, like it wasn't successful enough. I mean, every Pixar movie at the time was huge. I mean, they still are, but, they've had some not as huge releases
Yeah,
now.
Incredibles was a big success, though.
I feel like it was, yeah, and people loved it. So I don't know if it was just like they felt like it was more of a one-off movie and they didn't want to do a sequel, or if they just felt like there wasn't really a storyline to go into afterwards. I don't really know why they did that, or if they just didn't have the funding because they had so many other projects they were working on, which is probably the truth. That would be my guess, I guess.
Yeah, so I know that it took a long time, obviously. And I know that they were talking about it a few years ago, but obviously a lot of people are wondering for a long time why. So much that when the movie starts, they actually have the actors, Craig T. Nelson and Samuel L. Jackson and what's her face? The plays Elastigirl.
I want to say Holly something.
Holly Hunter.
Holly Hunter.
Yeah,
right?
like they all kind of like said like, hey, we know it's been a long time. We know, we haven't done this, we've been busy, we've all been doing stuff, but, we're happy to be here.
Movies take time.
Yeah, movies take time and whatnot. But, like, I got the impression that they were kind of doing that as, like, a way of saying, like, hey, we know it's been a long time, but thanks for showing up anyway.
Which is literally what they said, I felt like.
Right.
But
do you think they...
I liked that.
Do you think they needed that, though?
I don't think that they did, but I like that they did that because, they've had 3 Toy Story movies.
Right.
And 2 of them in between Pixar, Incredibles 1 and Incredibles 2, with announcements of a 4th one, right? So everyone's kind of going, well, where's the next Incredibles? Where's the next Incredibles? So I get it. I mean, and like they're saying, it takes time. It probably takes a lot of time to come up with what the story's going to be and all that. I realize taking movies, especially an animated movie like this, takes a lot of time. I don't know that they necessarily needed it, but I liked it because it's kind of a thank you to the audience of like, we appreciate you guys still like us. You're still interested in this story. Like, it's still meaningful to you and your families that you would come out and see a sequel to a movie from 14 years ago.
Right.
So I appreciated it. It was kind of nice instead of the don't steal movies spiel.
Right. So you get that, and then Pixar opens up with a little short called, I think it's called Bai, which is...
Bao.
Or Bao. Bao, which is like, I think English translated into like, it's dim sum, right?
It's like a dumpling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a very, very interesting Pixar short for me.
Yes.
Because it feels, without giving away a ton about it, it feels like the story's kind of going down one road, and then like it takes like an abrupt left turn.
Right, and I was kind of shocked.
And then you realize that this actually is about something completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful little short. I mean, beautifully animated. It's beautifully done. I think the story is actually beautiful.
Yeah.
And it addresses something that I don't think a lot of people who are maybe going to see an animated film would necessarily be thinking about.
Right. And it's not really geared towards children, which a lot of the little shorts kind of are. They're kind of like fun and silly, or have a little song to go with them or something, that are definitely more towards children. And this one is definitely more for the parents, I feel like.
Right, but they pepper in a lot of humor, and they make it good
Sure.
so like kids could watch it, and enjoy it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, I really loved it. I mean, we saw it twice, and I think I enjoyed the short even more the second time because now I knew what I was watching.
Right.
Because of the little plot twist, we'll say. I mean, it's not M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong plot twisty, but I mean, it's not one of those. It's a bit of a plot twist.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because the woman who directed the short is and I forgive me, I can't remember her name. I have to look it up again. But she always like that. Her thing was food. Like she would draw and like animate food, and so that's where this one comes from. And she is related to the culture of this movie and everything. And so it was interesting. I kind of heard some little things about that. she spoke at a thing recently, and forgive me, I can't remember exactly what she was saying, but it was just interesting hearing her talk about how food was always this big thing with her and her family, and that's kind of where this came from.
That is cool. You'll have to see if you can find that and then shoot me that link, because I'd like to watch that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Incredibles 2, the family's back. The movie picks up literally right where the last one left off. And pretty much the entire cast is back. I mean, you got Craig T. Nelson again as Bob Parr, Mr. Incredible, Holly Hunter as Helen Parr, Elastigirl, Sarah Vowell as Violet Parr. Now, here's the thing. There's a newcomer. His name is Huck Milner, and he's the voice of Dash. And Dash obviously was recorded by a different actor in the first movie, because obviously, the kid that did the voice of Dash in the first movie, was considerably older than...
Probably not sounding the same.
No, yeah, definitely not sounding the same, and so, they had to replace him.
But I think they did a great job, because I didn't really notice a big difference in Dash. I feel like he still sounded really similar to the first movie. Like, it wasn't a big jarring thing for me at all.
Right. And so Spencer Fox was the original Dash, and then this one, it was Huck Milner. And then the other voice that changed is the voice of the character Rick Dicker. It was Jonathan Banks in this film, but in the first film it was voice actor Bud Luckey. And Bud Luckey retired in 2014, and then he actually died in 2018. And so if you saw the little thing, it's like, it says this film is dedicated to, in Lucky's memory. And that was because of the voice actor. So, but of course, like, you've got Samuel L. Jackson is back as Lucius Best Frozone. A lot of the people from the first one. I mean, Brad Bird, the director, does Edna Mode again.
Who's my favorite? He's just funny as her.
Yeah, super awesome. But then we get some new voices. Catherine Keener, she plays Evelyn DeVore, sorry. And then Bob Odenkirk is Winston DeVore. Now, the second Bob Odenkirk, his voice started coming out of that character, I was like, oh, that's Odenkirk. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I
could hear that.
I just know it so well. I keep thinking of Saul from Breaking Bad. But it's John Ratzenberger was back as the Underminer.
Yes, which our children were so excited about.
Yeah,
the Underminer.
The Underminer. Yeah, which spoiler alert, he's only in like 3 minutes in the movie, maybe.
Just like in the first one.
I know.
This time it's just at the beginning instead of the end.
Which is kind of interesting, because, it could be a little thread for an Incredibles 3. You never know.
Yeah, true.
You never know. So anyway, like the cast is back. They're most of them are come back. We got some new people, obviously, because we got a new story, and we got to fill out some things for some people that can't be there. But this movie, what's interesting to me is, you got the cast reunited, right? And you've got a franchise that people have been clamoring for quite a while. And let's talk about this for a minute, because this movie released about 3 weeks ago, and domestically it has made $448 million.
Wow.
And with its foreign take worldwide, it's sitting at $656 million and change.
Wow.
And so, like, I just look at that. I mean, it's almost $500 million domestic. It's been out for 3 weeks. How many families do you think are like us and are going back a second time or a third time?
I would think quite a few, because, and this is the thing, is like just a few weeks ago, like when you were out of town, and I was like, oh, I want to do something fun with the kids. I want to like take them to a movie. And I looked up the movies. There was not a single kid movie out. And I feel like it's been a while since we've taken our kids to the movie.
Yeah.
And so when something like this comes out, we're like, let's go see it a couple times, because there's not that much out that either is good or that I want my kids to see or that I want to watch with the kids. There's plenty of movies that come out that we don't go see in the theater and then we'll like buy later and watch with them. But I don't necessarily want to pay to go to the theater to see some of those movies. But this is a movie that is made for the whole family. Like, they're just something to enjoy for everybody. The kids loved it. Jack was their favorite thing of all. I mean, he's the best. And then, like, we really enjoyed it. The story was great. The, characters, like, just everything. There's something for everyone. And I think there's just not as much of that out there now as I feel like, there used to be when first Pixar was coming out. Like, they were releasing movies quite frequently. And they still do, but I'm not as excited about all of them as I am about something like this one that I want to take my kids to.
So you made the point that, like, there's something for everyone. Like, what do you think our kids responded to most in this movie?
Well, if I can read by what my children say, it is Jack and the raccoon.
Yeah. And
that's all they talk about.
And that was an extremely funny scene. Like, I loved that scene. I think that scene actually stole the show of the
whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so like you'd say that stuck out to them, obviously. What would you say for you was the thing like you most identified with her that really resonated with you in the film?
Well, it's the parents. It's being a parent to kids, trying to figure out, like, the thing that sticks out in my mind all the time is when Mr. Incredible is trying to help Dash with his homework. And I mean, we're not helping our kids with homework yet. They're not in school yet, but I get it. And he's just like trying to help him with his math. And Dash is like, no, Dad, you got to do it this way. And he's like, why would they change math? Why is it different? And I think about that, because I know all that stuff is coming for us. And so, I resonate with
the way you
with
say
the
that, though, it makes
and
it ominous. It's coming for us.
It is. It's coming. New math is coming, Spencer. Be prepared.
Heck no. I'll make my kid learn it the old way.
So, it's stuff like that. It's like the mom, like, kind of working, but away from the kids, and the dad having to be home with the kids, and, this different lifestyle, trying to figure out how to make your family work, going through hard times together and trying to put the pieces together. And, like all that, it's just the life stuff. Like, it feels, even though it's about superheroes and it's so unrealistic, there's so many like actual life things that you're like, that has totally happened in my life before. That's what resonates with me as a parent.
See, for me, I think the thing that resonated with me, it also is kind of along the parenting lines, but it's you got this if you watch the trailers, but a big part of the plot is that Elastigirl kind of goes back to work in this one, and Mr. Incredible kind of becomes the Mr. Mom, stay-at-home dad type. And he's trying to deal with Jack, who is, developing powers, and he's struggling to figure out, like, the schedule and how to do everything. And you just see it on his face, like he starts getting that 5 o'clock shadow, and he's just like not sleeping, and he can't.
His eyes are droopy.
He can't keep Jack in his crib, and he just looks exhausted. But he's trying to put on a good front when his wife calls, like everything's fine and everything's okay.
Yeah,
and like that is how I feel like when you go away for a few days for like a work conference. Like, I'm okay. The boys are okay, but I'm tired, and like I'm the only one. I'm the only one here, and like I saw that and I was like, I know that feeling. I'm like, that's a feeling I think every father has when they're trying to do it all on their own, and they feel overwhelmed and they're not sleeping, and so much that like he takes Jack to go see Edna, and it's like, please, I just need a break, And like, I understand that's like, I'll pay someone to come babysit my kids so I can go take a nap. Like, I understand that. So like for me, that resonated with me. But I think you're right though. This movie has a little bit of everything for everyone, whether you're a kid, whether you're a teenager. Because I mean, there's some issues that come up with Violet in the movie relating to like teenage angst and teenage issues. And then of course the parenting
Is she
stuff.
having adolescence?
Yeah, exactly. So, so let's talk a little bit about the plot. I don't want to give a ton away, but obviously if you've watched the trailers, you know that this picks up, like we said, right after the end of the first movie. and something happens, and the Incredibles, Mr. and Mrs. Incredible, they're going to try to help save people and try to bring superheroes back into the spotlight again. And basically
have them be legal again.
Basically Elastigirl gets picked to be kind of the person to go out and to lead the charge for that, and Mr. Incredible has to stay home. What did you think about the new villain that they introduced, about some of the new characters they introduced? Because obviously they've got to have some sort of a story to move forward. Did you feel this felt good? Did you feel there was something lacking? What did you think?
Okay, so on one hand, I really like the new villain because it has to do with technology and our screens, which really people rely on so much. And that is, I'm not going to give all of it away, but that's a big part of this new villain. And I think that's very, very current. And they make a really good point kind of with that. On the other hand, it's a little creepy.
Yeah.
He's like, Jackson was freaked out by the first time I saw the villain. I was like, holy cow, like that is kind of creepy. I'm not going to lie. So just forewarning parents, like when you see that part, it's a little jarring at first and then you get used to it and it's fine. Jackson got over it, but he still is just like, Mommy, that bad guy's kind of scary.
Well,
I'm like,
and the funny thing is, like,
scary.
Speaking of jarring, because there is some jarring moments and he's kind of scary, but and we're talking about like screens, there's a bunch of flashing in one scene. The theaters started posting warnings, and then they actually added something on the beginning of the movie saying like, if you suffer from epilepsy due to like photosensitivity, prone to seizures, like be aware there is a scene in this movie that is going to be problematic maybe for you.
Yeah, because I feel like I don't remember seeing that the first time we saw it. But I do remember seeing that warning the second time we saw it. It might have been there the first time, but I don't remember.
It wasn't the first time we went.
Okay, but it was the second time. Because, I noticed it. It stood out. So, I mean, that's something, too. That in that whole scene, I remember when the lights are flashing and everything, our 4-year-old Jackson was covering his face and hiding his head in me because it was too much. He's pretty sensitive to sounds and lights and things like that. He hates fireworks, like we talked about and stuff.
I think he hates the big booms, but
that too. But just flashes and stuff. Like he wasn't a fan of it, so he was hiding his head during that part. So
yeah, I really like the new characters, and I really do like kind of the villain in this movie, and I like kind of what they're kind of talking about with like the screens and kind of the way the plot goes. But here's something that's really interesting. Like I thought about this the second time I watched this movie and the first one, if you go back it has like a very 1960s feel to it, with the way their televisions look, with the way they kind of dress, with some of the.
It's called mid-century modern.
Yeah. Okay.
It is,
but it all has that 1960s feel to it. Yet the storyline, as far as kind of like the technology aspect, feels very like now.
Right.
And I thought that was a really interesting kind of dichotomy, because visually what we're looking at looks older in a way, I guess, very stylized, but the issue is very current. And I think that that's really good storytelling, because you can mask maybe not even mask is the right word, but you can couch a modern problem or dilemma maybe, but still like use a different medium or a different time period to relay that information. And that can be very, very effective, I thought.
Yeah, I love that they didn't feel like they had to make everything look like super futuristic and, whatnot, and not even like super high tech either. Like, because most of the screens that they used for this villain were like large TV screens or monitors and stuff, but not necessarily like cell phones and tablets. You know what I mean? So I thought that was interesting too, because you don't see a lot of use of those types of devices, even though they do talk about how everyone is kind of addicted to screens and and that kind of a thing. So that was interesting because they really made that work without feeling out of place with that whole mid-century modern look and style to the films that both of the movies have had that same style. And I like that they keep that consistent in this one as well.
Yeah. Something I thought was also that's kind of interesting is that Peter Christensen actually said this maybe a week or two ago, that he would have said in any other year that this is probably the best superhero movie. But, I mean, you're also going up against Black Panther and Avengers, so that may be hard to say. But even though this is a superhero movie and it's a movie about superheroes, I feel like they don't lose what they had in the first movie, which is that this is really a story about a family who happens to have superpowers.
Exactly.
That it's really a family story, because you got the storyline obviously with the mom going back to work and the dad being the stay at home and dealing with all that. You got, this storyline with, the teenage daughter who's going through, as they say, adolescence. She's having, is she having adolescence? You got, the young son Dash and then Jack, who's kind of a toddler and, trying to figure out kind of his way in the world with his developing powers, plus, some of the adult themes, trying to deal with workplace issues, trying to deal with, the legality issue of their status as supers. Right. And I like that they focus more on that and less on punch, kick, we're big superheroes.
Yeah. The focus really is on the family in this story and their dynamics. And I love how in the movie there's so many realistic family things, like the two kids, Violet and Dash, are constantly fighting over who has to watch the baby.
Right.
When they're fighting, when they're using their powers and stuff, so that's funny because that would totally happen if you had a teenager and a 10-year-old who had superpowers and you had to watch the baby. So things like that. And, the interactions of the family and how they work together, and the dad trying to fix things with the daughter and how poorly those go because, dads don't always know how to relate to their teenage daughters.
Right. But, so here's what I think. I think that doing this and having the movie couched in more of and focus more on the family is going to help lock this movie away as being timeless and not seeming as dated. Because that's kind of how the first one feels to me too. I had a conversation, I think, with my mom about the Dick Van Dyke Show and why, comedians will still say that it's still a super funny TV show after all these years, because it was couched in real family interactions and issues and less about the pop culture of the day and things like that. And I think we're going to see that with The Incredibles 2 going forward, is that because the focus is on the family and the family issues in a new dynamic for the family, how they deal with it, how they adapt, that it's gonna make this movie seem timeless, and you're gonna be able to go back and watch it 15 years from now, or maybe 14 years from now when the next sequel comes out. But you're gonna be able to go watch it down the road, and it's gonna still feel as fresh and new and as applicable to families as it probably feels now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I hope they do make another Incredibles, however far down the road they choose to do it. Because I think they'll do as great of a job as they have in the past. And I just really enjoyed this movie. I did not mind going to see it again in the theater for a second time.
I'm with you. I don't like going and seeing a lot of animated movies, maybe a second time in the theater. But I did enjoy this one. And I think one of the reasons I also enjoy this movie is I thought the score was really good. Michael Giacchino came back.
Giacchino.
Huh?
Giacchino.
Okay.
Yes.
What was I saying? Giacchino?
Yeah, it's a weird pronunciation, but it's Giacchino.
Giacchino. Okay.
Yes.
Michael Giacchino came back and he did this. And of course, I talked about he scored some of the recent Star Trek movies that I've really enjoyed. I think he's a big kind of up and comer in the composer world, for movies at least. But he did the score for this. Here's something that's really interesting. So how in the movie they they talk about like, oh, like I remember back in the day, you were the this and that, and blah blah blah, and then one of the characters kind of starts singing the Mr. Incredible or the Frozone or the Elastigirl like little theme songs.
Theme song. Yeah.
That apparently on the soundtrack that they released, there's the score, but then they also include vocalized theme songs for Mr. Incredible, Frozone, and Elastigirl, the ones that were heard in the credits.
Oh my gosh, I have to get that because I freaking loved that part. It was so fun.
I really enjoyed the music and the score in this thing.
Yeah.
But
when our kids go around humming the theme to to the movies, they literally sing it in the car all the time.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to go out and get that. I want to get that and I want to listen to it. I don't buy a lot of scores. Usually it's like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, that kind of like bigger kind of epic fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm, and some of the Star Trek ones, I guess I've got too. But I may go pick this one up.
Yeah, I loved The Incredibles music. I mean, like when we were at Disneyland in April, it was the beginning of Pixar Fest, and so they were constantly playing Pixar music, and every time The Incredibles music started, like your mom or me or the kids would stop and listen and be like, "Oh, it's The Incredibles," and we're just like, we every time we would comment, "We love this music. It's so good." And I just really think that Michael Giacchino is just a fabulous composer. He's done some of my favorite soundtracks recently, like Inside Out and stuff that I just think just are simple, but they just catch you, and I just really like it. So
yeah, I really loved this movie. It's doing really well with reviewers. Rotten Tomatoes is giving it like a 93% fresh rating. And, the average rating for users, I think, is like an 8 out of 10. So I think it's a well-received movie. It's making lots of money. But it's getting really good reviews. I would say, Super Friends, if you haven't seen this movie yet, even if you don't have kids, if you enjoyed the first one, go see this one. It's definitely worth seeing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the question I think is do you think there's going to be an Incredibles 3?
I don't know, but I can see how here's the thing is I didn't feel like they left the first one really open for a sequel. Not that they didn't, but they didn't like leave it hanging, for a sequel. Like it could have just been a one-off and they really could have just left it and it would have been fine. Right. I'm so glad they didn't. But I feel like they kind of did the same thing with this one. They stopped at a place where it could totally just be done and they're not going to make any more. But you can see how there is a future that they could do something else. And, maybe they do something in the future that focuses more on the kids. I can totally see them doing some Jack shorts, which I won't be surprised if they do. A number of those.
I hope
the very
they do.
First Jack attack.
I hope they do.
Oh, yeah, me too. I hope so too. Or even, it wouldn't
bring
be as
back
good, but
that
they could
squirrel or raccoon.
Raccoon.
Bring back the raccoon.
It's like our kid's favorite character, Jack and the raccoon. I would not even be opposed to them making like a Jack cartoon series. Like they've kind of, they've got the Big Hero 6 cartoon series that's out now. I could see them doing a Jack one. I would love for them to do a third movie in sooner than 14 years.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah, because let's be honest, the three main characters are getting older now, the voices, and not that they're super old and gonna bite the bullet, but get some more in now. That would be awesome. I'd love it.
Yeah. I want to see a third movie. I think it would be good. I'm with you. I'd be okay with Jack, like a little shorts or like a little cartoon series. Maybe even if it only runs on like the Disney or Disney Junior channel, that would be fine. But yeah, I want to see something. I want to see something for in the way of a full feature length film. I think that they could do it. And I think they dropped some breadcrumbs in this movie that would allow them to do that.
Yeah. Also, another one I came up with that I think would be amazing would be at least one short that is the babysitting event of Edna and Jack Jack together.
Yes.
I need to see what happened.
And I'd also be...
because that would be amazing.
I'd also be okay with more of Violet going through teenage years, because there's a lot of good stuff there. Anyway, so I'd say my thing is, if I'm going to tell the Super Friends, I'd say go see the movie. Go see the movie. It's worth paying for. It's definitely worth using your Movie Pass if you got Movie Pass or the cinema thing, or if you're now part of the AMC Stubbs A-List Premiere, whatever. I can't remember what it's called. Stubbs A-List, I think, or something like that. Go see this movie while it's in theaters. It's fun. It's worth seeing. It's definitely one we're going to purchase and have in our house.
For sure. The kids want it now.
Yeah, for sure. So here's my question of the week. And this is a little different than usual because it kind of goes along with something that kind of happens in the movie. But Super Friends, if you had to stay home to take care of a child with superpowers or developing superpowers, and then you decided that you were kind of crazy and you wanted to run a daycare for super toddlers, what would the name of your super toddler daycare be? Britta, do you have any idea what you would name a daycare full of superhero toddlers?
Superhero toddlers. Probably like Xavier's School for Gifted Children.
Yeah, come on. Come on. Daycare for toddlers.
I don't know. I can't even come up with anything. I don't know. Do you have one?
I was trying to think about it, and I was like, maybe it would be something like, I don't know, like, Spencer's Super Toddlers, where wearing your underwear on the outside of your clothes is fine. I don't know, some tagline or something. I mean,
yeah, I gotta think about it. I'll come up with one for next week.
I'm just like, you got to come up with something creative. Like, how do you market a daycare for superhero toddlers?
I got nothing. My brain's not working right now.
Maybe I'd go with something simple. Maybe I'd say like a super toddler daycare. I mean, that's generic, but I mean,
straightforward and to the point.
Yeah, super toddler daycare. Anyway,
come fly with us.
Yeah, right. Right. Your children will fly, but we will keep them grounded. I don't know, something like that.
There you go.
I know it's kind of a silly question, but Super Friends, that is the question of the week. If you were a stay-at-home parent that had a toddler with superpowers and decided to run a daycare, what would the name of your super toddler daycare be? And
see if you can beat our lame answer.
Right. And you can let us know at all the normal places. Hit us up on the email, the Twitter, the Facebook, or the voicemail, and we will read your answers next week. Britta, thank you for joining me once again for the movie club this month. I appreciate you coming here and being on. It's always a pleasure, and it's a lot of fun.
It is. Thanks for always having me come back.
Well, you know what?
You haven't disinvited me yet.
Well, that's true, but I think if I disinvited you, that'd be a little awkward. But like, hey, so we just recorded the movie club. Can I sleep in bed? No, couch? Okay, couch. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, be a little weird. Anyway, so Super Friends, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you. Always.